Hey everyone, Tina here. I have been wanting to record this episode for a really, really long time. I'm warning you, there's a lot of stuff here. It's not the typical episode. And what I'm naming these episodes, actually, these recordings with just me, it's just me today, everybody, just me. They are called Tina Talks, where it's just you and I talking, me sharing. And today I'm actually sharing a lot. I know I left a little bit of a cliffhanger the last time, telling you that I would give you an explanation and why I stopped recording for almost 10 months. This is literally the first episode of In the Suite um, that I'm actually recording in 2023. And for me, it's a really bold move. Like I said, I've been waiting for quite some time, and there's a huge story behind this. So, first of all, thank you for listening. Um, what I'm about to share is deeply personal, but it's something that I actually want you to hear because I think to myself, if this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody, including you. And that's not to scare you, everybody. I just want you to know what happened to me so that if anything comes up in your life or in someone that you know, I think that you'll be able to give maybe even some different advice and maybe even direct them to this episode. So this is the first Tina Talks. So let's kind of get into it. What happened? So on January 16th, 2023, I treated myself to an executive physical titanium package at the Princeton Longevity Center. And what that meant was like this all day dream physical. And it was it's intense. Like you're looking at your entire body from the inside out. And so they're doing traditional physical stuff like your height and your weight, your blood pressure. They're actually checking your blood there and giving you the results there, which is pretty interesting. And then part of this involved a body fat composition analysis in addition to what's called a CT scan. I'm sure that you've heard of these full body scans. Yes, these full body scans look actually inside your body at your lungs, your pancreas, your bladder. It looks at you from basically from the neck down. So I elected for one of these physicals for a number of reasons. Number one, I wanted to make sure that I was okay. And number two, because I swear to God, the universe actually prompted me and made sure that I would get one of these physicals. So more on that in a second. I looked into this full body scan right after the pandemic, but warn you guys, the sticker price, there's a little bit of a sticker shock here. So, full day titanium package executive physical is it's pretty expensive, and none of it, believe it or not, none of it is covered by insurance. And so I looked into it right after the pandemic, and I actually decided not to do it because not a dime was covered by insurance. It was really expensive. And I thought, like, hey, I was okay. But anyway, on January 16, 2023, I decided to actually go for it. And thank God I did it because spoiler alert, it saved my life. So you arrive, first of all, the Princeton Longevity Center is located in Princeton, but they have different um, offices all throughout the United States. And so the other one that I'm familiar with is in the Boston area. I can't say enough for David Fine, the founder, and I'm so grateful to him. There are so many people that I need to thank here, and Dr. David Fine is one of them. So, he was the first touch point. He was the first point of contact. So basically, you go through all of this, all these physicals and all these tests throughout the day. And it's Princeton Longevity Center is beautiful, by the way. You arrive and there's like this marble countertop, and then behind you are these arts, and there's fresh flowers. The staff couldn't be more friendly and welcoming. You really do feel like you're at a day spa. It's pretty interesting. They even give you like your own room that day. So like I brought my computer and you're able to work from there, and then they feed you lunch. And I mean, it was just such a wonderful, wonderful experience. So after you go through all of these different type of tests, it's like CrossFit. You go from one thing to another, kind of like Orange Theory. At the end of the day, you actually sit down with Dr. Fine. So I sat down with Dr. Fine in his beautiful office, and I will never forget it. There's a pair of monitors, right? You've all seen the monitors. And what he does is that the monitors, instead of facing me, are facing him. So we go through some of my history and explaining some of the findings on the from the tests. And so we get to the part where, he starts to lean in forward, and his voice gets a little bit slower and a little deeper. And so he shows me my lungs, and on the right lung, there's something there. And so he points it out to me, and he said, there's something here on your right lung. Everything else looks okay, but there's something here. And because it is a certain size, that we need you to actually get it checked. And you can imagine I was freaked. I was literally freaked. And he tried to calm me down. And but the inside, I was having like a major league panic attack. And I was like, what does this mean? Like, what is this? Like, is this cancer? And so he didn't diagnose as cancer. I, of course, knew that it was intuitively. I knew that something was there. And so what he did was, he said, you're going to need to go for a PET scan. And I had never had a PET scan before. I had heard a PET scan. So a PET scan is to diagnose it as would be the result, would give me the final result of whether or not it was cancer or not. So the great thing about working with Princeton Longevity Center, and yes, I paid a lot of money, but it was money that was obviously saved my life. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking right now. But more importantly than that, I was really lost. Like when you're sitting across the table and somebody's showing you a picture and there's something in your lung there, you are flipped the fuck out. Like, let me just say right here, right now, you are flipped out. And like your normal capacities of thinking correctly, like forget about those. They go totally out the window. So the great thing about Princeton Longevity Center and David Fine is that they helped me actually set up for that PET scan. So I did that PET scan at Capitol Health. And that also too was really freaky. So, part one is going for that full body scan and them actually finding something on my lung. Part two then was getting to a PET scan. And obviously you want to get there like tomorrow, but guess what? That's not how it works. You've got to wait in line. No matter how bad your case is, like you have to wait online with the rest of the people. And so I went to Capitol Health and went for the PET scan. I had no idea what to expect, but that also too was absolutely scary and freakish. So the thing that I remember the most is I'm sitting there and then a nurse comes in. And of course, it was the beginning of January 2023. So everybody's masked. And so this nurse comes and she's got almost this like James Bond titanium, platinum, plutonium, like vice. And so what she does is like, she unscrews it and then she injects me with the fluid that was in that container, which was wild, absolutely, positively wild. And what that does is after that fluid's in your body, you have to wait a certain amount of time, and then they bring you into the room. And the idea is that if you have cancer cells within you, that those actually light up on a PET scan. And you can imagine mine lit up. I remember it also. I knew it. I knew something was wrong. Well, first of all, leaving Princeton Longevity Center, but secondly, is that the nurse, who was so wonderful and so nice at the PET scan, made no eye contact with me at all, and she was behind the glass, and I could tell, like, she just didn't have the heart. She knew, it wasn't good. So what happens is that after the PET scan, it's another series of waiting games. So nobody's there. You don't, like, all of a sudden get your results that day. It's not like a blood test. You have to wait. And you have to wait for a medical doctor to actually deliver that news to you. And the news was that it was cancer. So naturally, your mind starts wandering into all kinds of crazy places. And the next thing you think about is like, okay, how bad is it? You know, what stage am I in? What's happening here? So again, thanks to Dr. David Fine in Princeton Longevity Center, that got me in touch with NYU Langone. He gave me a list of hospitals and medical centers. And when he said NYU, that's where I did my graduate work. I love just all things NYU. My family will tell you that. I said, it's NYU for sure, David, it's NYU. So I was immediately introduced to Dr. Joshua Sabari, who is my oncologist at NYU Langone Health. And he also then introduced me to Dr. Amy Kent, my thoracic surgeon, and yet another physician, and that was Dr. Vivek Murthy for my pulmonologist. So these three individuals really helped to figure out what was happening inside my body. What type of cancer did I have? How serious was it? What were the next steps? What did I have to do? What did treatment look like? All of these things. So I get to NYU, and the first meeting actually was with my oncologist over there, Dr. Joshua Sabari, who explained what would happen. And the way that cancer is, the way that cancer goes is you first have this diagnosis, but then on top of it, they have staging, right? You're all familiar with staging: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Obviously, the higher the number, the worse that it is. And I remember Dr. Sabari telling me that they can't determine what stage it is, that staging occurs in a series of steps. And part of that is through surgery and through testing. So the first thing that happened after a meeting with Dr. Sabari and Dr. Amy Kent is that they indeed told me that I had that my tumor was cancerous. We already knew that. At the time, it was about 2.1 centimeters. When it was finally removed, it was 2.6 centimeters. It was removed actually 4 weeks after diagnosis. But what happened is that Dr. Sabari and Dr. Kent, big shout out to them. I have to tell you, the most fantastic group of people, of physicians that I have ever dealt with. Dr. Joshua Sabari, Dr. Amy Kent, Dr. Vivek Murthy performed my first procedure, and that is the pulmonologist. So what the pulmonologist did was actually go into my lungs and take a sample. And I should mention that one of the things that I immediately did at NYU Langone Health was I elected to be part of a research cohort for lung cancer. So that means that I gave permission. I donated like all different parts of my body. Like whenever I had surgery, I said, sure, you can take some extra stuff. I gave them everything. I gave them saliva. I gave them my tumor. I gave them things that come out of your body, blood, you name it. I gave it to them in the hopes, because NYU Langone Health is a research hospital. And I wanted to contribute in that way. So Dr. Vivek Murthy gave me what's called a bronchoscopy. So bronchoscopy actually allows the thoracic surgeon, it basically gives the thoracic surgeon a lay of the land. In addition, is that when Dr. Murthy was in there during this bronchoscopy, is that they sampled the tissue to figure out, hey, was this contained? Wasn't it contained? Did it spread to the lymph nodes and whatnot? So through that they do staging. So Dr. Vivek Murthy went in there, and after the test, after the bronchoscopy, actually, it was determined that I had stage 2, a stage 2B. And what that means is that stage 1 would have meant like a very small concentrated tumor that hadn't gone anywhere. Stage 2, my tumor was of a certain size, but it was in some of the lymph nodes, not all of the lymph nodes, and only the lymph nodes on part of the lymph nodes on the right side of my body. So after that, they determined then that they would, as far as treatment, so right, like, okay, you have this tumor, what's next? Like, is it radiation? Is there surgery? What's involved? So after they went in for that bronchoscopy, they were able to say that because of where the tumor was, because of the size, and because of my physical well-being, I want to just say that, geez, ladies and gentlemen, if there's a reason to keep yourself healthy, let me go on record saying this. You never know when you are going to need life-saving surgery. Luckily, I was in fantastic shape. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. And I was in pretty good physical condition. I was riding horses 3 days a week. I was doing Latin Pelotons with Robin Arzon and Cody Rigsby on my Peloton app. So I was in great shape to do the surgery. So they explained that what they would be doing was a procedure called, drumroll, a robotic lobectomy. A robotic lobectomy. So that involved actually taking part of my lung, specifically the upper portion of the upper lobe of my right lung. Your right lung has 3 lobes, and your left lung has 2 lobes. So they determined that they would indeed be removing part of my lung. And in order to do that, I had to go through yet again a series of tests that involved CT scans of my brain, looking at everything. I also remember that I had to do it was really wild, some like lung tests where I was like in this like container thing. It was very interesting. So they were testing my lung capacity. So every single test that you can imagine, I actually went through. And remind you, all this is happening in a 4-week period. And oh, by the way, I'm still working full time. And I sold my company I sold C-Suite Social Media on November 1st to intentionally, and to Kelly Waltrick and Megan Richter. So all this is happening still while I'm living my life. So long story short, and again, I apologize that this is long-winded, but it's really important that you hear like the story. On February 13th is when I had the robotic lobectomy procedure. And I knew that would be rough, right? The way that the difference between a lobectomy today in 2023 versus how it was probably done like 10, 15, 20, even 20 years ago, is that the incision actually it's done partly through robotics. So instead of having one incision that goes from the front of my body to the back of my body, it's 5 incisions. It's like chit, 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 chit. And when I first came home from my robotic lobectomy procedure, and I looked at what it kind of looked like, I thought like, oh wow, I kind of looked like I was bitten by a shark. Like, it was like, oh, I'd like to go to the beach and pose with the surfboard and let everybody like think like, oh, yep, that was me and the shark, and I took care of the shark. But seriously, Dr. Amy Kent performed that life-saving surgery and actually took the whole entire lobe along with the tumor and got rid of that as well as the lymph nodes and literally took it out of my body. The recovery for a robotic lobectomy procedure was tough. It was really tough. It wasn't unbearable, but it was tough. There's no way to sugarcoat that. But throughout the process, I was being monitored, and naturally I was limited in terms of like what I could do physically, and even as well what I could do mentally. Like cancer, any type of cancer really, really affects you mentally. And if I'm being honest, I'm still going through that mental healing. And you go through like a lot of stages, and that I think is lifelong from what I heard from other cancer patients. Okay, so back to the robotic lobectomy procedure. So after your procedure, what they do is what they do in all surgeries, and that they take that tissue and they perform testing on it. And specifically what they're doing with tumors, lung tumors especially, is that they're trying to determine, number one, what type of lung cancer it is, because there's two kinds. There's the non-smoking kind, the environmental form of lung cancer. And then there is the smoking kind, like related to like emphysema and whatnot. So I had the non-smoking kind. And I want to be totally transparent. I did smoke in high school and college, and then I quit 33 years ago. But the cancer that I had is the environmental radon exposure. One of the things that my oncologist asked me is, where was I at 9/11? Was I a first responder? What did I do for a living? Where was my house? Like, all of those kinds of like environmental scan type questions. So they determined that it was non-small cell lung cancer from radon exposure that happened in my life, like, I don't know, like 20 years ago. You said that I contracted, they're not really sure how I contracted it, but believe that, it's been germinating in my body for, I don't know, over 20 years. And in addition to diagnosing the type of cancer it is, they're able to diagnose the type of tumor that it is. So for me, that is a tumor known as L858R exon 21. Don't ask me to explain what that all means. Just know that it is a certain type of tumor. And the reason why they do it like this with all this genomic testing is because medicine and technology and science have come such a long way. And thank you for everyone working in our medical field. Our pharmaceutical companies, thank you, because they really have developed some life-saving drugs and what they call targeted therapies. So targeted therapy is a pill that you take for this type of lung cancer. Do they have a pill for each type of lung cancer, for each type of tumor? No, not today. I think there might be as much as 200 strains of lung cancer. So I was very, very fortunate in that, number one, where the tumor was located. Number two, getting a diagnosis early on. And number three, I'll never forget Dr. Sabari saying, "Good news, Tina, good news. If you're going to have lung cancer, this is the type to get. It's very treatable, and there's a targeted therapy for it." And that targeted therapy, in case anybody wants to look at it, is called Tagrisso. And it's made by AstraZeneca. The scientific name, and I'm going to botch this completely. It's Osimertinib, Osmerntib, something like that. Osimertinib, to Tagrisso. And that treats, again, this non-small cell lung cancer, L858R, exon 21. Tagrisso is also used for treating other types of cancers. So again, our technology has come a long way. Okay, so now that that's aside, and I probably have gone on for a long time already, let me tell you what happened after the surgery. Okay, so being that it was a stage 2 and not a stage 1. Stage 1 would have meant take out the tumor, bye, see you later, have a nice day. Stage 2 meant an entirely different, what medicine calls standard of care. Standard of care is basically, in layman's terms, the way that I understand it, is a standard operating procedure for your type of ailment or cancer, in this case, standard of care. So tumor of lung cancer 2B, non-small cell lung cancer, NCSLC, I think I've got the acronym right, means that you're going to need to follow up with chemotherapy, and that you're going to need to follow up with a targeted therapy. So I elected for chemotherapy right away. So 4 weeks after recovering from surgery, I went in for my my first chemo treatment. What I also elected to do, because I live here in Pennsylvania, is we determined that I would be going to UPenn, the Perelman Cancer Center at UPenn in Philadelphia. And Dr. Sabari would introduce me and find my oncologist here. And that oncologist is Dr. Melina Marmolelis, and she is phenomenal. So I would receive all of my care after the surgery through Dr. Melina Marmolelis at the Perelman Cancer Center here at UPenn, because that's where I live. And especially with chemo, you get chemo in the same place every time. And the nurses and the oncology nurses at UPenn couldn't have been better. My whole experience. So I was told that I would need 4 treatments of chemotherapy. And the chemo drugs that they recommended and that I did was called Cisplatin and Pemetrexed. Cisplatin, Cisplatin, and Pemetrexed. And you can imagine that I went back to Dr. Sabari when he kind of told me what the game plan is. And I said, okay, well, Dr. Sabari, is my hair going to fall out? You know, here I am, like, I'm trying to be back at work, and I'm Italian, and our hair is like, you know, I'm born a Jersey girl. I was born in New York City, but raised in New Jersey. And like, you know, I was part of the 80s big hair movement. But hair is really a huge emotional attachment. So it was one of my first questions, is like, hey, am I going to lose my hair? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, well, yeah, it's a good possibility that you are going to lose your hair. And he goes, if you want, Tina, I can give you something different in terms of chemotherapy if you want to make sure that your hair doesn't fall out. And this was the clincher. But he looks at me and he goes, but Tina, and he goes, I'm giving you the Ferrari. And so I said, okay, let's go, Dr. Sabari. I'll drive the Ferrari. And the good news is that I never did lose my hair. My hair thinned out a bunch. It was all over the bathroom. I even used like those sprays and stuff to make it look thicker than it was. But instead of doing the 3 bouts of chemotherapy, instead of doing the 4 bouts of chemotherapy, I did the 3. It was really, really hard. I know that I have a video on what to expect for chemo. And that I recorded at the beginning of chemotherapy. What I didn't realize is that chemotherapy is somewhat accretive. And by that, I'm meaning that as you do more and more of it, it gets stronger and you get sicker. I was so sick, like most people do get on chemotherapy, and it was to the point where it was the third round was almost unbearable. I really couldn't handle it. The side effects are really excruciating. Um, and my heart goes out to anybody that's listening right now that is having to deal with chemotherapy, because it is one of the hardest things in the world to deal with. I found actually chemotherapy in some ways was harder than the robotic lobectomy surgery. And that's where they're, it's interesting to say that. But it's the truth. There's just, oh my gosh, everything about you is affected. Your hearing and your mental capacity, the feeling of just exhaustion and being absolutely sick. Would I do it all over again? Yes, I would. But 3 chemos in, I said to both Dr. Melina Marmolelis and Dr. Sabari, is that I said, look, do we think that we got it with the 3? If the cancer's out of my body now, and somewhere in the basement at NYU, can I just do the 3? I said if the 4th is absolutely mandatory, I'll do the 4th. But we determined that that the 3 was enough, because I was transitioning right into a targeted therapy, and I want to be very clear on that. The only reason why we said yes is because we went directly into treatment with the targeted therapy, the Tagrisso, right? The pill. And then that in itself was not, we weren't sure whether or not how I was going to react to Tagrisso. I'm part of a couple of Facebook groups, one for lung cancer survivor group, another one for Tagrisso. And unfortunately, like, as much as doctors and oncologists and physicians want to tell cancer patients, don't Google anything. Well, spoiler alert, we Google stuff. And now not only do we Google stuff, but if you're like me, you're asking ChatGPT for all of these other types of questions as well. So you're going to ChatGPT, you're going to Bard, you're going to Copy AI. I was going to all of my generative AI platforms. Again, not a good thing, but something that I needed to do. The other thing I did was I literally binge watched every single lung cancer survivor story on YouTube. And it's one of the reasons that I decided to go public, and that I decided to start making content and let the world know about the whole lung cancer diagnosis. And that is, when I was in the thick of it, is that I struggled to find answers. I struggled to find people that looked like me. I struggled to find, people that actually survived this. And that's the key, right? If you take anything away from today's Tina Talk and this podcast episode, it's this. If one person can survive this, and there are plenty, if one person can survive this, so can you. If one person's done it, then you can too, right? We've seen examples of this with running the climbing Mount Everest. I think that the first time that was done was in like the 1950s. After that climb, then you have massive amounts of people each year going up to Everest, but that wasn't possible before the first 2 people went up. Same thing with, I want to say, like the 5-minute mile. And again, if my history is not right, forgive me. that might have been Michael Jordan, not obviously the basketball player, who ran like the fastest mile. After he did it, like then he made everything possible. And so that's why I decided to go public, is because I really relied on that content, especially on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, a big shout out to you. And okay, so I've gone on a lot. Okay, so now let's summarize here. I told you about the diagnosis. I told you about the treatment. Told you about the surgery. Now telling you a little bit about Tagrisso. So I've been on Tagrisso for approximately, I'm on 80 grams. And since July or June. No, I think it was June, July, August, September. Okay, so I'm in almost the fourth month of taking Tagrisso. For me, Tagrisso is a wonder drug. The idea behind these targeted therapies is that it acts as a preventative so that this never comes back. Right. And my philosophy about preventative is that it's part based in traditional medicine and science, which I absolutely believe in, and also to the alternative therapy side of the equation. But I am taking Tagrisso with limited side effects. As part of being on Tagrisso and being treated for stage 2B lung cancer, that has since been excavated out of my body. My treatment protocol today looks like this, and I'm recording this on in October of 2023, and October 25th is my 57th birthday, and I plan to release this episode as a birthday present to myself and to all of you, to help you get through some really heinous, difficult times, to maybe give you a methodology and to give you hope. So back to my treatment. So Tagrisso is, I go for scans every 12 weeks. And those scans, those are CT scans of my chest, of my lungs. And specifically, that gets rotated between CT scans of my chest and either my brain or my pelvis. So my brain gets scanned every 6 weeks, every 6 months. My pelvis gets scanned every 6 months, and my chest gets scanned. My lungs get scanned every 12 weeks. In addition to that, they're taking, I'm going for blood work and what they call labs every 6 weeks. And that's to monitor my, my blood. And specifically, they're looking at my white blood cell count, my red blood cell count, neutrophils, hemoglobin, you name it. They're looking at it. So a big shout out again to the Perelman Cancer Center that has got like that real like Philly, you know, that Philly vibe. I love it. Their strongest, their most bullish, strongest philosophy and treatment right now. So I'm in this treatment protocol, this aggressive treatment protocol for at least the next 2 years of all of these scans every 12 weeks and blood work every 6 weeks. So today, Tuesday, October 17, 2023, my scans, thanks be to God and all of you and my kids, my mother, Mark, my brother, so many people to thank. My mom, Joanne, my kids, Rachel and David, and my son-in-law, Mike, my daughter-in-law, Janelle, Mark, my BFF, my best friend, my soulmate, my partner, my brother, Tony, and his girlfriend, Mandy, all of my aunts and uncles and cousins, especially my Uncle Larry, and my Uncle Patrick, Uncle Richard, Uncle Tony, Uncle Jim, Uncle John, Aunt Gina. Did I say Uncle Richard? My mother was the oldest of 9. And my partners, Kelly Waltrick and Megan Richter at Intentionally, and the amazing team of people that I get to work with every day. Not only the team at Intentionally, but clients and industry people. You've all been so supportive, and you all know who you are. But the decision to go public actually really, really helped me through some really dark and dangerous times. So today, October 17th, less than 2 weeks ago, I had the scan done of the lungs and of the pelvis, and there is no evidence of disease. For anybody that's battled cancer, they know the acronym NED, no evidence of disease. So I'm being very intentional. I love that word. Intentional about combining both the traditional aspect of medicine, and again, that looks like Tagrisso. I'm also too, that's 80 milligrams. And I'm also on a statin, rosuvastatin. I'm on 20 milligrams for that. And my age is, I will be almost 57 years old. So again, I hope this is helping anybody who's listening, especially anybody that is potentially knows of someone or has a lung cancer diagnosis. So I'm here to tell you that I'm all clear. Everything that's supposed to be out of my body is out of my body. And in addition to the steps that I'm taking with Tagrisso, is I'm making sure that I'm doing things different with specifically related to my diet. So I want to kind of segue into that. So let's go there. There is a real disconnect, or I should say, the fields of medicine and nutrition are mutually exclusive. And that's just the way that the society is. So you are your own best advocate, and you are your best own healthcare advocate. And by me, this is not medical advice. This is just Tina sharing Tina's story on Tina Talks, on, what happened and what I'm doing as a result. I get all kinds of people that look at me and they're like, wow, you look amazing. You look great. Well, I still have the chemo pictures on my phone, and I could tell you in the surgery pictures that I didn't look like I do now back then. But here's some things that I'm doing that, for whatever it's worth and whoever it's going to help, I'd like to relay that information. There are a couple of people that I follow on YouTube specifically, and that is Rich Roll's podcast, and Dr. Peter Attia, his podcast, as well as Andrew Huberman, Huberman Labs. And they all have different philosophies, but specifically Rich Roll, I want to credit for the whole food plant-based diet. So yes, I am eating a plant-forward diet. That means that 90 to 95% is all plant-based, plant and fruits. So I've eliminated all red meat, all poultry. I haven't eliminated all of dairy because, look, I'm Italian and I still need like a little bit of cheese over my pasta. And every now and then I need a slice of fresh mozzarella. It's just what it is. But I no longer have the prosciutto. Sorry to say, yes, I am missing that. But so I eat a mostly plant forward diet that consists of whole fruits and vegetables, and a very, very limited amount of carbs. Do I still enjoy a piece of pizza every now and then? Absolutely. Yes, I'm human. Same thing with like pasta, and same thing with bread. But for the most part, I've tried to eliminate all sources of white flour. Okay. The other part that I've severely limited, actually totally extricated from my diet, is alcohol and sugar. And one of the things that happened to me, and we'll talk a little bit about like the warning signs and kind of how I knew to get checked. Maybe I should save that for another podcast, because I think like this is enough for you. This is enough for us, right? I want to kind of give it to you in doses, because I don't want to forget certain parts of the story that are pretty important. But let's just kind of talk about what I'm doing from a self-care preservation. Okay, so I talked about eliminating meat and poultry. I haven't eliminated 100% dairy, but I try to eliminate dairy. But I'm still eating, like, some feta cheese with a Greek salad and occasional mozzarella. In addition, I'm limiting the amount of white flour products. So I'm looking at, for pasta, I'll have like chickpea pasta, edamame pasta, and gluten-free pasta too. That's either corn, brown rice, or I think white rice based. Okay. The third thing is that I have eliminated alcohol completely. You have heard me right. I completely eliminated alcohol. I have not had a drink since New Year's Eve, or since New Year's on in January. That to me has been super, super hard, believe it or not. I did never considered myself like to be a heavy drinker, but I loved a vodka martini and I loved a glass of red wine. So that part has been extremely difficult. I had to adjust to a lot of social situations. That was hard to do. People noticed that I was like, "Hey, you're a little quiet." I was like, yeah, trying to like get back into life, and you're way different. However, and again, this is just my experience. You can look at what you did, at what you want. But alcohol, as the World Health Organization labels it, as a carcinogen. And anything that was going to throw off my health and increase inflammation in my body was something that I wanted to eliminate. So I completely eliminated alcohol. The way that I make it through at social events is by having, like, I'll have a club soda. I even tried having a non-alcoholic beer, which was surprisingly satisfied. The other thing I'll do is I'll do a Bloody Mary, a virgin Bloody Mary. And thank God for like mocktails, because mocktails too, depending on where you go, could be that. I have been back exercising. I'm not quite at the athletic endurance as I was. You can imagine when they remove part of your lung. I have really good lung capacity, but I don't have 100% lung capacity the way I used to. So I'm working my way up to right now I'm at 15-minute Pelotons. I believe that I could do 20-minute Pelotons. Walking, I could do up to like 12,000 steps a day, which is pretty darn good. I still try to take the stairs as much as possible. And I'm started to lift weights again. I've got to work on the core. The core thing I've got to work on after the surgery. Like, this right side of my whole entire body is numb. I might not get that back. It might not be another 2 years until like I get like the full feeling. So it kind of feels like a little prickly. It's getting better with time, but it's a very, very, very strange thing. So I've got to work on my core muscles. I did stop riding horses. I did. You could see my horse picture. I love horses, but here's the thing. When you ride horses, it's not if you fall, it's when you fall. You are attached to like this 800-pound animal. And I don't care if the horse is broke. there is still a dangerous risk that comes with horseback riding, and specifically with cantering. And there's also too the impact from going up and down. Cantering is like a gallop almost, but a little bit slower than that. And I didn't want that impact on my body. And so I completely eliminated horseback riding. So, my exercise right now is like, it's stationary, it's Peloton, it's weight, and it's walking. It's stuff that's not very high impact related. In addition to that, so you've got the eating over here, nutrition, you've got the exercise over here. The alternative therapy, have an infrared sauna. So I'm doing an infrared sauna at least 3 times per week. And I am combining that with baths, with Himalayan sea salt, Epsom salts, and then combining it with like a good YouTube like relaxation video. So I'm making a very intentional part. Sorry, my phone is ringing, so I'm a little distracted. But I'll get to that. Wow, I think it's been like, it might be an hour so far that we've had this recording. So in addition to that, there is journaling is a really, really big part of this, everybody. Journaling is a big part. So I have a gratitude journal. I'm trying to get more religious about that. And speaking of religion, there's one quote that has really helped me through this whole terrifying. I'll use the word terrifying, because from January to let me just text this back. Call you back. Thanks. Hold on, you guys. Call you back. From January up until actually this month, when I finally went for that second set of CT scans, and they checked the pelvis. This has been terrifying. And so the quote, my go-to quote, and we're going to have a lot of these through Tina's talks, has been, my faith is stronger than my fear. My faith is stronger than my fear. And I'm luckily to be supported before this cancer stuff even happened, to St. Andrew's Church of Yardley. It's an Episcopalian based church. And my priest, Hillary Greer, has been extraordinary. Bob Anderson, Holly over there, the whole, there's so many people to thank over at St. Andrew's. But my faith is stronger than my fear. So I guess to wrap this all up, what does this mean for the future for In the Suite? This is the first podcast. It took a lot of courage to finally do this episode. And I decided to just make this episode non-scripted, just, you and me through Tina Talk. So I apologize if it was a little bit lengthy, but it was the only way to kind of, explain my story. And my hopes for Tina Talks is I'll share more of the story about what I'm doing, and not necessarily all related to cancer, but definitely related to wellness. I think one of the things that we did brilliantly in the suite is, and we will still do, is talk to the business leaders, a majority of them women, to find out their origin stories. How did they get from point A to point B? But there was one part of In the Suite that I didn't address, and that was wellness. And without wellness, and without your help, without your health and help, all of this like career stuff, all of this leadership stuff, and all of this, getting to a certain point in your career, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you don't have your health, none of that matters. So Tina Talks are going to be conversations about, wellness, things that I'm doing. I get a lot of people that are like, wow, like you look great. What are you doing? So I'll be happy to explain what I'm doing, but I would love to hear from you. Please, if we're not already connected on LinkedIn, connect with me, Tina Powell, on LinkedIn. You can find me there, partner chief growth officer at Intentionally. Please connect with me and let me know. I really would help me a great deal if you let me know one to one if this episode like helped you in some way. I get so many people reaching out to me, especially with some of the content that I have on YouTube, not nearly enough. We'll be doing that more in the future. That ask me about Tagrisso, a robotic lobectomy procedure, how I got through chemo, just my experience with lung cancer and cancer in general. So I would be willing to share that as well. So please let me know if this episode in particular has helped you. And if you know someone in your life that you think that could benefit, I'm here to tell you that, it's been a terrifying journey and it's been a heck of a ride. Um, I'm so grateful to God that I'm still here on this earth. I'm a grandma. I became a grandma 12 weeks ago, and I'm just so grateful. Especially Mark and my mom they've been with me. I've gone to every single medical appointment with someone. Um, that was really too important. And so, if you know somebody that's battling cancer, it's the little stuff, you guys. It's the little stuff. It's sending a text message, it's sending a picture, just letting people know that they were thinking of you. And another person that's been really there have been a lot of people that have been extremely beneficial to me. So I just a big shout out to all of them. And thank you again. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support. And if you have any questions, uh be patient with me too. I might not get to you as soon as possible. But I want to thank you all. I want to thank my podcast producer, Kevin Hirschhorn, who's been with me before all of this happened. And now he's going to be getting this video as well, and this sound recording. So I've gone way beyond my time here today, you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of my life, for being a part of In the Sweet community. God bless you all. Please, keep track of pay attention to your health, make your health a priority. We'll have future Tina talks around that, around, how I knew to get checked and, what those kinds of warning signs were. And if there's something else that you want me to talk about, please just, let me know, send it to me in a message. You could message me on LinkedIn. You could find me on Twitter, In the Sweet Pod. We are on Instagram. You could reach out to me personally on Instagram. And then my email address is tina@growintentionally.com. So thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this first Tina Talk. And thank you. I'm really grateful for all of you listening. Take care.